Jill on the mic. It's about to get real. Keep it live, that's right. From Pennsylvania to across the globe, it's time for the Steelers All-Star Show.
Welcome to the Steelers by the Lake podcast. My name is James Strong, joined once again by my co-hosts, Jill from Ohio and Cody Tanner. Nick unable to join us at the beginning here. There's a real nasty storm ripping through the northwest Pennsylvania. Looks like maybe down into Columbus too. Jill's shaking her head, so they might be getting it too. So Nick's got no internet right now, and he's got to work this morning, so he's trying to fix that. And he may join us if he can. But Jill, how you doing this morning?
I'm good. The storm was down here in central Ohio, so I was worried I was not going to have power. A couple different cities were without power, so I'm happy that I have mine. But we're sending our best to Nick. Hopefully he gets that up and running. But I'm doing pretty well. Cody, how are you doing on the official start to the new league year?
Actually, Yeah, episode 1, I'm doing fantastic. The girlfriend and I already went out and got our 7 brew, got the pup cup. It's our Saturday normal. So that was a good time. Also, Pal's breakfast. I bet you guys have never heard of that because I never did before I moved to Tennessee.
No.
Very good things from Pal's. Delicious food. But I'm doing well. Excited to hear another mock draft because it's just mock draft after mock draft on this show right now, and it's very exciting. James, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. No champagne for the new year, so we'll just have to deal with popping on a nice cold Alani here and celebrate the morning here. What an exciting time to be a Steelers fan, man. Omar Khan is just busy as can be. He's working, he's cooking. He's got us over here dreaming of a Steelers championship once again. And later on, we're going to find Jill's number 1 draft pick in addition to her entire draft class, all 12 selections of what seems to be an ever-changing need list. What in the world is Pittsburgh going to do? But we got to jump into this because there's a lot of guys to talk about here.
Mm-hmm.
Pittsburgh started free agency off with the signing of Asante Samuel Jr., bringing him back on a 1-year, $4 million deal, which felt like an emergency policy in case they didn't get one of the other guys that they wanted in front of him. But 1 year, $4 million, I like it. I think that's the high-quality backup corner that if he has to start, you're okay with it. And there's still the potential of what could we see with him as a future starter if he can develop back into what he was as his top-tier talent, a second-round pick for the Chargers. How do you guys feel about Asante Samuel back with us for 1 more year?
I mean, I think it's good for the time and the money to prove if he can play at that caliber. So I feel like it was a low risk, potential high reward signing. I would have rather had James Pierre back, but I understand with, money talks. So, and with the corner class that's in the draft, I could see why they would just do the low money and then potentially draft a guy. And especially with 12 picks, which we've all talked about how we don't think Pittsburgh's making all 12. They'll trade, they'll do something. But with that many picks, you could essentially just every position get something. But so I like it. I think low risk, high reward.
Yeah, James Pierre to me feels like the whole Bud Dupree thing all over again. The last year with us, he has a kind of good year and then he's gone. And so there's a sadness of losing Pierre when he might have been turning into something. And then there's also the excitement of Asante Samuel Jr. with the pedigree that his father already had in the league and hoping that he can live up to some type of caliber that his dad played at. I think we have a good chance of maybe seeing him develop a little bit more this year. But again, a cornerback is not a position I expect us to just forget about in the draft, even after other signings and other things that have happened. So speaking of Pittsburgh trading draft picks, I mean, they do that too, and they keep them. So we used a draft pick in a trade and still have 12. So
absolutely, yeah. Let's stay in the cornerback room. I'm gonna jump around on the notes here a little bit today, but I feel like the next corner is the one that makes the most sense to talk about next.
Yep.
They go out and make a splash on most people's number 1 corner in free agency of Jamel Dean, the former Tampa Bay Buccaneer. He's 6'1", 206. When he came into the league as a rookie, he ran a 4.30 40-yard dash. Guy's got arm length that is almost to exactly what you're looking for. It's like 31 3/4. So The arm length is sufficient. He's got good tape, good speed. 3 years, $36 million with the Steelers. And he will be our starting corner opposite of Joey Porter Jr. to maybe give us our most formidable duo in some time now. I would say probably back to like the Joe Hayden years when we had that other corner that came in for a couple of years and was real good from like Kansas City or something. I forget where that other guy was from at the time. But he had a couple nice years at the same time and gave us a nice duo. I'm excited about Jamel Dean. The age is not great. He's 29 years old, but it does seem like he's not falling off. And the key for me here is that, Pittsburgh's made a lot of signings of aging corners in the last 5-6 years. But the difference here is that when this guy came into the league, his speed was elite, maybe fastest corner in the league kind of speed. So a drop off from a guy that ran a 4.3 040 when he came into the league means that if he were to get slow, he'd be a 4.5 flat, which would still be as fast as a lot of guys coming out in the draft as rookies. Yeah. So I'm not as worried about the speed drop off with a guy like this, just because of how extreme it was when it started. What are you guys thinking with Jamel Dean and our new bookend duo of tall, fast corners that are press man type guys?
I like it. I like it a lot. I think finally getting an opposite that is equal to JPJ, we will see some great production on the field. And we've talked about this before, where it's just like we're letting guys run their routes, and this, I think, is the signing where it's like, hey, he won't let them run a route. Like he'll get there and disrupt, and he's physical, and so I think Omar Khan, just go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, keep eating. I mean, he's dealing and doing all kinds of stuff, and I think there's something to be said that we'll get to here shortly. I'm sure it's going to be probably the next conversation we have. Of there was an aspect of, we needed a corner, but we also need people behind him to kind of help when they're in zone and things like that. This is a guy that I think is going to have an ability to allow other players to play their position correctly. We talked about that a lot with Minka in his last few years, of like he was trying to play and make up for other people's deficiencies. Well, we're not going to have a deficiency in this cornerback room right now. I mean, even if Asante Samuel Jr. comes in on the nickel, or if we draft somebody to come and play nickel, or if Ramsey comes down to play nickel, there's a lot of different opportunities here. This is a guy that's actually, I think, going to help us also in the turnover category. This is a guy that's going to make some interceptions, make some plays, force some fumbles. He's a very physical corner, and it's very exciting to see. I mean, this is going to be the best cornerback duo since what? Ike Taylor and Deshaun Townsend? Probably?
Deshae wasn't very good.
But that's my point. Like,
I'd say Bryant McFadden and Ike Taylor.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. But yeah, this is a good duo, man. And this is something that we've been talking about for years now, right? When we go up against elite teams in the AFC, who are the teams that we know we're going to have to get through in order to get to the Super Bowl? And one of them starts in our own division with the Cincinnati Bengals. If you can't beat up on the Bengals, if you allow a lowly Cincinnati Bengals team to just outscore you with no defense, that's no good. So you absolutely had to do something to go out there and to add to that secondary. And like Cody's saying here, with that secondary now, I mean, you kind of like where that situation is sitting in the cornerback room. Let's stay there, because it sounds like Cody wants to stay in the secondary. I'm willing to do it. Let's stay in the secondary. Darnell Savage was the first safety brought to the team. And I said, hey, man, this is a high pedigree, highly athletic dude. Turns out more recently in his years in the league, he's been missing a lot more tackles. But he is a dude who's super effective against quick screens and short pass plays. His click and close ability and to get to somebody right after they catch the ball is incredible. So that's something that's very good. And again, a highly athletic dude who's probably not going to get beat over the top very easily. So if that were your top backup safety, you could do way worse than that. But better yet, they go out and get Jaquan Brisker, a 1 year, $5.5 million deal, former second-round pick for the Bears. He was a starting safety for them in a highly effective one there as well. has played a ton of free safety, has played a ton of strong safety. He can play both positions. This could be that piece that you're looking to build around as a future starting safety for this team. I know it's a 1-year deal, but I feel like this is if you stay healthy, if you play good, we're going to extend you just like we did with Deshaun Elliott. And I like the plan. How do you guys feel about these new safeties in the room here?
I like the plan, especially because unless I've missed something, I still don't exactly know how Deshaun Elliott is doing. And so with that, like, I know like we're healed and recovered, but what will production be like? Is it still going to be like what he was doing before he got injured last season? Because there was a noticeable difference when Elliott was on the field and when he was not on the field. And so bringing in these guys like Savage and Brisker, I don't feel like we would feel the impact of that as much because they would be able to step in and do the same role if Elliott is unable to play to the caliber that he was. So I still foresee, like, we have to wait till, camp and whatnot. But
Yeah,
I think these are additional good signings.
Yeah, I mean, a small shout out to SteelersNation.com. They put an article out 2 days ago that Steelers' Deshaun Elliott suddenly reveals he had more problems than just a knee injury, and so talking about that, that article specifically talked about how Steelers have always been a team that keeps things in house and keeps things under wrap and whatever. But it was said to be a hyperextended knee, and there were some rumors that the Steelers geared him up for the playoffs that he would have had a chance to return. However, new information came to light that no matter how far we got in the playoffs, he was never going to return because of other things going on with injuries. So that raises the question even more. And I'm not there. I don't know the severity of anything or where their details came from, but that is another thing that you see that makes you kind of question, was there potential for more? And bringing in 2 safeties in free agency, knowing we're still probably going to draft another one, kind of raises the red flag on the Deshaun Elliott situation, and maybe there is something else going on, or was, and they're not sure either how he's going to come back.
Right.
Yeah, you figure they typically go into the season with at least 4 safeties, maybe 5. And if Deshaun Elliott's healthy and returning, the top 4 almost seem like they're locked down now. To me, right out of the gate here, Darnell Savage isn't even guaranteed to make the team after signing a couple days previous. Because if Elliott comes back and you invest highly in the draft, let's say first 3 rounds, that guy's definitely making the team. Now you have 4 guys who are definitely making the team, and Darnell Savage is going to have to compete with anyone else in the room for what would be a 5th spot at that point in time. And we talked about it last year with Sebastian Castro, who showed a lot in the preseason, showed a lot while playing at Iowa. He'll be returning to try out for the team. If he has a strong preseason, you never know. Darnell Savage might not even make the team.
Yeah.
So, and that could be a good problem to have, I would estimate. I would think if we get in a situation where we're not sure if Darnell's even going to make the team, I'm okay with that situation.
Those are the problems we want. We don't want the lack of depth, which is something we had.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, when they signed Darnell Savage, I was like, man, I hope this isn't another offseason of bringing in a bunch of 29 and 30-year-old safeties. And then they bring in Brisker, and he's like 26 or 27 or something. So I was like, okay, I feel a lot better.
All right.
Yeah, Brisker, the only red flag with him was 2 years ago, not this past year, the year prior, was an injury year for him. He only played 5 games. But then he played all 17 last year. The production wasn't quite up to par with the first 2 years. But that's somewhat normal coming off of an injury that took you out for over half the year. So I'm still excited to have a younger safety because I'm with you, James. They just keep bringing old guys in to come and try and do a job that these young receivers and tight ends are just flying past these guys.
Yeah. Yeah. And some of them were great in their prime and just were past it.
Yeah.
Got to get some youth in that room. I think that's something all of us are going to address with our mock drafts at one point in time or another. So that's going to be a fun thing to see. But let's continue forward here. Probably one of the other biggest ones that I think we should just talk about now and get out of the way was the trade for Michael Pittman Jr. With the Colts re-signing Alec Pierce and giving him top dollar to play the position. They didn't really want to spend that much money anymore in that room. So they were looking to possibly cut Michael Pittman. Pittsburgh said, hey, wait, before you do that, how about we throw you a 6, you throw us a 7, and we take his contract off your hands. They said, sounds fantastic. We'll trade up a little bit, 16 picks. It's a difference of 16 picks.
Right.
That's all we traded down in order to get a number 2 wide receiver and a high quality one at that. Immediately turning around and giving him a 3-year, $59 million extension. So you've got $50 million a year tied up in your top 2 wide receivers, but you also have probably the biggest wide receiver duo in the entire NFL right now. Like from a physical size perspective. And there's a lot that complements DK Metcalf's game and Michael Pittman's game. Without knowing more about him, I thought maybe this might be a little redundant. 2 big wide receivers, okay. But Pittman's a big-time separator at the line. He's great at avoiding a jam. He's awesome at sitting down in between zones in that quick passing game. It's almost like having an additional tight end on the field, but he is like a quarterback's best friend when the play breaks down or when things need to go quick. And you know who loves to throw the ball out quick? Aaron Rodgers. I saw someone say this is the perfect Aaron Rodgers wide receiver.
Honestly.
So obviously I'm a little bit excited about it, but what about you guys?
Well, I like a wide receiver that feels like he can do it all. It's like a complete wide receiver because, so far we've had, well, and not only that, but like reliable hands with his catching. That I think was the biggest thing for me where I was like, oh, finally, we have like a guy that can get separation, a guy that can catch the quick pass, but he's reliable with his hands. And like, we love DK. He's physical. He like knocks a guy out anytime he's near him. Nobody wants to touch him, but you can double cover him. And then he wasn't getting the ball or he dropped the ball. So I think getting Michael Pittman is a great add because now it'll free up some creativity with this new offensive coaching that we have no idea what's going to happen. Like, I just think it's going to relieve some pressure off DK to actually catch when he needs to. This Pittman is reliable enough on his own that we know we can go to him, especially in an emergency or like we need to get the ball out quick and he will be there and catch it. And so I think, and he's a big guy, so he can knock some people around too. I think it's great.
I'm curious who you guys would rate as the best receiver in the league right now. Right in this moment. Who's the best?
I think your conversation for me, it's going to be between 3 dudes. It's either Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, or Jackson Smith and Jigba. I feel like those 3 are in a league of their own right now. I could put Puka Nacua in that conversation as well, but I feel like that's like your top dudes. And if somebody said any of those 4, I'd be like, yeah, I can see that.
Okay, so just to put in perspective, Jackson Smith and Jigba was probably my top one. He had the last 2 years a catch percentage of 73%. 72, I think I want to say 70 or 72 even was Jamar Chase. Justin Jefferson was a little more than that. Michael Pittman Jr. last year was 72-1. So this is a guy that you talk about reliable hands.
Okay.
I mean, he's right up there with the best. And so that is very, very, very exciting. And you got to realize that was also the year that he probably finally got some decent quarterback play. It's been up and down for Indianapolis for a little while now. So I'm very interested to see this pick and how this pays out. But having a 6'4" guy next to another massively tall dude, and I hope that this allows DK to play a little bit better, to potentially do something else. He's going to finally get pushed. There was no one on that roster to push him to be better in the wide receiver room last year. Ain't nobody. So this is exciting. Maybe they can have some friendly competition, and I'm excited to see what Michael Pittman Jr. does as a Pittsburgh Steeler.
Yeah, I think for me too, like, this is a highly dependable dude. He's a chain mover. He's a guy that when he catches the ball always fights for extra yards. You're not going to see him ducking out of bounds. Multiple touchdowns from him last year were him catching the ball at the 2 or 3 yard line, guys draped on him and him carrying him into the end zone. I love that kind of tenacity. I love seeing that kind of thing. It's what we get out of Darnell Washington, but you're getting it in a wide receiver form. So I love that. I feel like this really, really sets the tone for Pittsburgh trying to play more bully ball in a division that requires bully ball to be played.
Yep.
Having two monster wide receivers, your small starting wide receiver is 6'4", 223 pounds now. That's your small guy. Because the big one's 6'4", 235 and looks like he should be playing linebacker. So I love this, and I think that low-key what it's going to be even more exciting for, other than the passing game, is what this is going to do in the running game.
Oh, my gosh, right?
These guys are going to annihilate corners when they go one-on-one with them.
Mhm.
Like, this is going to be ugly what these dudes do to corners on opposing teams, because big corners are 205, 210, and that's still a lot smaller than these two. So I love the possibility of what this can do for opening up holes. And a lot of times when you get that explosive play, when you get that 10, 15, 20-plus yard running play, it's because the wide receiver took care of business. Sometimes because the wide receiver took care of his corner and went and got the safety and got him out of your way. A couple of times last year, we saw Jalen Warren breaking off big runs, and who was running side by side with him, escorting him? DK Metcalf.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman Jr. escorting him. Man, you're not getting through that.
Nope.
And Darnell Washington.
I was going to say, Darnell Washington. Who is stopping us? Honestly, who's stopping us?
Not Trey Hendrickson, that's for sure.
Put Darnell. You got to put Darnell, Pittman, and DK in a trips wide receiver set to the right side. Motion Jalen Warren out. Just hit him and let him go.
And let him. My gosh.
Because Darnell's knocking three guys out. Sorry. Like,
Easy. All he has to do is fall, and he'll take them all out.
Yeah. He'll take care of the linebackers and defensive linemen, and the wide receivers to take care of everybody else. Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun thing to watch again. I think there's a lot of reason to be excited about what's going on this offensive side of the ball. But again, in this bully ball theme, they go out and get a new running back in Rico Dowdle. Rico Dowdle has put some really nice seasons together, rushing for over 1,000 yards, I believe, at least twice in his career thus far. Played under Mike McCarthy. So Mike McCarthy was very familiar with him, and he did say that was a large reason why he wanted to come to Pittsburgh. But known for being a power, physical runner, not a massive dude. He's like 6 foot 215, but the physical style. And he got a little bit more than what Jalen Warren is making in a 2-year, $12.25 million deal. So it does put a little bit of wonder in my mind. Is he going to be the feature back and Jalen's going to be the third down guy? Because I do understand maybe his pass blocking is not the best. So maybe Jalen might go more into that passing down type role again. We'll see, but I like the physicality of having another smash mouth running back who can just go ahead and lower his shoulders and go get you a couple yards when you need it.
Well, and I feel like that it's harder for defenses because, like, I feel like when Gainwell would go out on the field, like, he still fought for every yard, but you were like 50-50. He might receive it because he was such a good receiver. And I mean, he was a threat when he was receiving the ball. So that's hard to defend on its own. But when you have two similar running backs, it doesn't matter who, like, it could be Warren, it could be Dowdle, and we can do the same type of thing, same type of runs because they're both that highly physical caliber. So I'm excited. And he played for Carolina, like, Godspeed, God bless.
The big thing that I've been seeing is the comparison to Kenneth Walker. Rico Dowdle actually has better stats from last year than Kenneth Walker in most categories. They have the same rush yards per attempt and everything. And then Rico has the contract that he does, and Kenneth Walker gets a 3-year, $45 million. So we're out here hustling the free agency. I'm excited to see what Rico can do, and I think he's going to be a phenomenal addition. Whether he's the front runner or they just kind of do a 50-50 swap, I think there's a chance. I want to see two halfbacks in the backfield. I wanted to see it last year with Gainwell, and we barely ever saw it. I'm hoping we see it a little bit more this year because you can do so much trickery out of that, so much misdirection. So
trickery.
Yeah, especially when both guys are strong enough to be a lead blocker if they need to be. I think the pony backfield would be a wonderful thing to see a little bit of because, I mean, we see it with Jalen Warren and blitz pickup. He can hit somebody and stone a blitzing linebacker very easily. Dowdle, as physical as he is, if you needed to use him as a lead blocker on a play for misdirection purposes or whatever, I feel like he could definitely execute that as well. So, the versatility in the fact that you're making sure your running back room is stocked with 2 high caliber dudes. Kind of sucks for Caleb Johnson because I don't know that he's really going to get much of a chance this upcoming season, but he better really show out in the preseason. That's all I gotta say. He's got to prove himself in the preseason if he's going to get much playing time this regular season.
Yeah, he's got to prove.
Yeah, a little bit of return experience with Rico Dowdle also. He's done some kick returns, so I could see him getting stuck back there since Pittsburgh is addicted to putting starting running backs in as kick returners. But
I mean, he did have kick return stats last year, so
yeah, like 8 returns or something.
8 for like 200, a little under 200 yards.
Yeah, it was like right around that 25-yard average that we had with our guys. So,
Yep.
Final offensive piece that I've got written down here. If you guys think of somebody else that we've signed that I've missed, please let me know. There was a guard that was reported early, and then there was conflicting reports as to whether or not it happened. So I'm just not even going to bother with that name because I've never seen anything official from the Steelers on him.
Nope.
But they did sign Jack Driscoll, who was on the active roster for a decent amount of time last year. He's an offensive tackle, was kind of practice squad. Then the last guy on the active roster. You could do a lot worse for a backup offensive tackle than Jack Driscoll, so I don't think it really moves the needle much. They did kind of release a statement at a similar time indicating that they feel like Broderick Jones will be ready for the offseason program, that he's progressing nicely through his recovery process. So we are getting some promising news there. Whether or not that's a little bit of a, hey, everything's fine. We're definitely not going to draft a tackle. Don't worry about us doing that and then go draft a tackle in the first round. Who knows? They are creative with that kind of misconception and kind of misleading people this time of year. But Jack Driscoll, another guy in the room at least.
Depth piece.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair. And to switch over to the defensive side, the first guy will get out of the way too, unless Cody, you need to go off on Jack Driscoll. I didn't figure. A similar guy on the opposite side, probably a slightly higher tier. It says Otomewo gets a 1-year deal to return to the Steelers as well. He got a little bit more involvement as the season went on last year, and I feel like Pittsburgh liked what they saw out of him in short stretches. So I feel like bringing him back was no surprise to me because I felt like he was a step above what we got out of Isaiah Loudermilk the last few years. So you're trying to upgrade that back end of the defensive line room and not go into this upcoming draft class with big glaring holes. So you could do a lot worse than Ezezi Otomewo, 1-year vet minimum contract for Ezezi. He sticks around more of a D end than a defensive tackle, but a fine piece to keep in the room, if you ask me. Bigger signing yesterday, though, staying on the defensive line, defensive end Sebastian Joseph Day gets a 2-year, $11 million deal from the Steelers. A true 3-4 defensive end type, 6'3", 299 pounds, 34.5-inch long arms. He's a run-stopping defensive end who can kick inside in that nickel formation, not a nose tackle. There are some people saying, oh, they finally got their nose tackle. He's not a nose tackle. Put the brakes on that. But this is a high-end backup to low-end starter kind of thing where I feel like you're immediately forming that top 5. With us talking about Cam Hayward getting his extension, we know he's going to play this upcoming season now. It's not in question. So the starting 3 is set. We really like Y.A. Black and what he showed us last year. So there's a lot of great potential there. Now you're putting Sebastian Joseph Day in with that group there. It feels like the top 5 are pretty much concrete now. And that it's a competition. Unless you decide, you never know, Pittsburgh could decide, first or second round, there's a guy that they really like that they think could be the bookend to Derek Harmon down the road. If he's there, you take him. You don't pass it up. If the talent's there and you think he can be the guy, you do it. But it does put you in a pretty good situation of having a pretty clear top 5 in that room, which you got to feel a little confident about. You guys have any strong opinions on Sebastian Joseph Day?
He's just a rotational piece. That's all he's been his entire career between the Rams, Chargers, and Tennessee Titans. He played with the 49ers, but never actually played with them due to injury. He's going to get you 2 to 3 sacks, and then we're going to move on. There's a chance he's the 5th guy in that room. There's a chance he's the first guy off the room. It just depends on how the preseason goes. But he's a guy that I think comes in and we at least know what we're getting. It's not a question mark.
Yeah.
And it sure is a line when he's in. So.
Yeah, at least gives you a high floor. You know, you talk about ceilings and floors of players. If you have a low floor, that means the play could be really bad. A high floor means you're at least getting adequate level play out of the guy, and I think that's what we can expect out of him. Somebody that won't get bullied in the run game, which is really important. We've had some games where we just were getting pushed around and bullied. But then there's people that are part of this podcast that you can never push around and bully. And it looks to me like we have had a little bit of luck here. He's worked through his issues. Joining us mid-show here. Nick Pretzel able to join us in the show. Nick, how are you doing? You're fighting the storm out there.
I'm fighting the storm out here, everyone. It's been windy. My internet is down. We're joining on data, so we'll see how all this goes. But I am here, and I'm excited to be talking Steelers stuff.
Awesome. I'll just catch up with where we're at. We've talked a lot of free agency and who's been joining the team already so far. So we've talked all the offensive guys we've got out of the way. We're starting on defense now. We've talked corners and D-line. We're about to hit the linebacker room. I think that's really about all that's left now, and then the punter. So is there anything you'd like to speak on like Michael Pittman Jr. or Rico Dowdle or any of these big signings that we've made that we've gone over on the show here?
Well, let's just say that the con artist is cooking. I got the black and gold today to celebrate.
Yeah.
And all these other teams are going to need to be in rehab with how bad they're going to have to be feeling when they're facing the Steelers. Just like the Ravens seem like they're in rehab after Max Crosby's whole fallout there. But in any case, very excited to see what the con artist has been cooking up. It's been wonderful to see. Loved that Jalen Warren had already reached out to Rico Dowdle last year before he even got signed to say, hey, from one undrafted guy to another, love what you're doing, and now they're playing together. Love Pittman's wife having a dream of him in a Steelers uniform. Now he's in the Steelers uniform, you know. Pittman is in Pittsburgh. And then you get the hometown kid. I believe you said you already talked some of the defense in Brisker from who was formerly with Chicago. You know, Con's bringing in people who A, want to be in Pittsburgh, and who B, are going to fulfill a lot of the holes that we've been missing for a long time. You know, we didn't have that wide receiver 2 for a long time. Now we have that in Pittman, and a really good one at that, because he could, in some teams in this league, the Cleveland Browns, be a wide receiver 1. So, you know, there's a lot to be excited about. And this is a tall team now, too. DK and Pittman are both about 6'4". Darnell Washington is 6'7", which I know makes Jill very happy.
Darnell? I don't even care. It's allowed.
You know, there's just Pat Fryermuth 6 and some change. So, you know, it's a good looking offense for whoever the quarterback's going to be, which, you know, maybe Aaron Rodgers, but I'm excited.
And I think there's plenty of reason to be. The Jaquan Brisker signing, you know, that's a fun one. He played with Joey Porter Jr. at Penn State. They were on that same secondary together. So there's some instant chemistry going on there, too. We haven't talked Cole Holcomb yet, so we'll get him out of the way. He returns to Pittsburgh on a 2-year, $5 million deal, which is a high-end backup, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. If you can get the play from Cole Holcomb that you got before the knee injury, which there's a possibility he could return to that. Last year was his first year back since the knee injury, which was a devastating injury. It cost him an entire season plus. So if he comes back to that form, hey, you got a really, really good backup middle linebacker and on a reasonable contract, 2 years, $5 million. I mean, come on, that's like 1% of the cap when you're talking a $2.5 million per year deal. It's a $300 million cap. You're less than 1% for a guy. I'm fine with it.
I think it's good just to assure some backup, especially because we don't know what's going on with Malik Harrison and all the smoke around Patty Q. So I feel like it's again, low risk and mid reward because we know what we have in him. He's a good depth piece. He's not going to completely blow every play, but is he setting the world on fire? No, but does he do the job when we need him to? For the most part.
Yeah.
I know he can get the job, but can he do the job? That's a Joe versus Volcano reference for anybody who's a Tom Hanks fan.
I'm going back just for a hot second before we move on to the defense linebacker room. I used Chat GPT, sorry, Joe, to ask what team in the NFL has the tallest wide receiver and tight end room. I said, please do some research, and it said number one, Pittsburgh Steelers, likely number one overall. It says extremely large tight ends plus multiple big receivers. So we're Chat's on board with us being the number one overall. So.
Makes sense to me. Last signing that we haven't talked about yet is bringing back Cameron Johnston, the punter. He comes back on a 1-year deal, a very reliable punter. And I think that's an important one to talk about there. Because Corliss Waitman's not under contract right now. Corliss Waitman is an unrestricted free agent. So now there's a guy back in the room, and the guy who lost out to Corliss Waitman, but he was recovering from a knee injury at the time. So there's a possibility he wasn't really 100% when he lost that punter battle.
Yeah.
So I'm totally fine with this. I feel like that is a very good, again, high floor type of move.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel? Any strong opinions there?
I love it. I think most of us, if not all of us, had him winning that battle when we were doing our predictive 53s. So, I mean, it was a tight race, and Corliss did pretty well, but he just kind of wasn't as consistent as we wanted him to be. So, hopefully, Johnston is now back to form and removed well enough from that knee injury that, we're familiar with him. I loved when we signed him in the first place, and he was doing great up until I think it was the Falcons game when he got that knee obliterated, and it just was not a good time. So glad to have him back. I saw that he posted something saying that he's excited to be back, and I said, "Welcome back, glad to have you." As soon as I saw it. So really excited to have Johnston back.
Speaking of obliterated knees, really quickly before we get into Jill's mock draft, which is the featured part of today's show, let's talk Ravens. The Ravens had a deal in place for Max Crosby for 2 first-round picks and back out of the deal, apparently claiming that he failed their physical. There's a lot to unpack with this. And then immediately turn around and signing Trey Hendrickson, which I love that they did that because he's a very poor run defender. And I can't wait for the matchup of Darnell Washington versus Trey Hendrickson. It's just going to be great. But how do you guys feel about this? I've got some pretty strong opinions, and it's not looking like the Ravens front office can be trusted in trades these days.
Nope.
It's not the first time this team has done this, and it's not going to be the last. And I just think it's a crappy move. It's a trickery to kind of fool other teams and to fool other situations and to kind of get your way out of it. I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of the Ratbirds, and I'm moving on.
I'm with Cody and all of that. I think that in their effort to screw everyone else over, they screwed themselves a little bit. They obviously lost a lot of their high caliber free agents this year. I mean, Tyler Lindenbaum went to the Raiders. Isaiah Likely went to the Giants. So they lost arguably the number one center in football. They lost arguably the number one blocking and receiving tight end in football. So it's like, that's just the start of the list. So you can't sign all your free agents when you're locked into the Max Crosby thing. Then when you back out of the Max Crosby thing, you're picking up at scraps of who's left. And then you really kind of screw over everyone in the league. And it seems to be that everyone around the league is saying, that was crappy. We don't want to deal with the Ravens again. And will they deal with the Ravens again? Probably, but it's probably not going to be anytime soon. And there's going to be a lot more guarantees that they're going to want. And was it legal? Sure. They did it during what was formerly known as the legal tampering period. I believe it's now called the negotiating window because they don't like the word tampering. But this sure seems like tampering to me. So
yeah. Well, and I'm like, Max Crosby not passing his physical, but Hendrickson did. Like, they both were coming off an injury. So I just find it, or like, what's hush hush, what's not. It's very sus. So
or coming back the next day and being like, we signed Trey Hendrickson. Like, you don't have that big of a deal in place overnight. That takes time to iron out too. So that was clearly in play long before that. And they decided, we can get Trey Hendrickson and our 2 first-round picks back, and we don't need to worry about the injury as much. And then it comes, like, you see next day Max Crosby's on a trampoline. Like, I'm pretty sure he passed his physical. Yeah. But that doctor needs investigated, and I'm excited to be beating up on Trey Hendrickson 2 times a year in a different city. But it is what it is.
Yeah, it's a real interesting one to me. So this is the 4th time now in like the last 10, 15 years that the Ravens have backed out of a draft trade. So they have done this where they've offered big deals to a guy, and then they say, nope, sorry, we don't like the physical, and then somebody else signs him, and they go on and have no issues. Now, I feel like there's a little bit more gray area with Max Crosby, and I'm just going to touch on this briefly, and then we'll move on in the program here. But he was apparently 1 week from just getting off of crutches, 8 weeks post-surgery on a meniscus surgery. As we've talked about many times in this show, meniscus surgery is typically the easiest surgery of any knee surgery out there. But there's 2 different ways you can do this. Imagine basically the bottom of your pair of jeans and a bunch of frayed like cords sticking out. Either you trim it off, which is the easy surgery, or you stitch it back into the material to repair it. So his was a repair. It was the more extensive of the 2. But the rumor is that there was also bone damage and cartilage damage. So if that's the case, I could see some concern of longevity. If you've got bone damage and cartilage damage, you might have a deteriorating knee that could cause future issues. That being said, they knew all this information before they agreed to the deal. So I think it's a little bit more than what we're being led on to, and it paints the Ravens in a very negative light, and I am very okay with that. Especially since apparently last year when they shipped Jair Alexander to the Bills, they said, there's nothing wrong with Jair Alexander, and they have now come out with this after this happened and said, there was something majorly wrong, and 11 days later he retired. And it was because of the injuries that he had during the trade. We trusted them, and we'll never trust them again. Apparently, the common theme around the NFL is that other GMs think what they did in Baltimore was complete BS, and they don't trust them now. So it is really going to negatively impact them in future trades and what people are willing to give up. If you think you should be able to get a first-round pick in return, you're probably going to have to give them 2 first-round picks now if you're Baltimore, because they're going to assume that you're doing something shady in deals now. So,
yeah. Just briefly before we move on to Jill's mock draft, some of the Steelers players that have left the building now and are with other teams. Isaac Seumalo signs a 3-year contract, $31 million with the Cardinals. Kenneth Gainwell, unfortunately, to the Buccaneers on a 2-year, $14 million deal. James Pierre to the Vikings on a 2-year, $8.5 million deal. Connor Hayward on a 2-year deal to the Raiders for $5.5 million. And then Calvin Austin on a 1-year prove-it deal with the Giants on a 1.5 deal. As much as I hate to see these players go, I'm very excited to see what Calvin Austin can do with that stud room of, Jackson Dart, Cam Scattaboo, and all those guys, Malik Neighbors. So hope he does well. Hope if we ever play him, he doesn't, though. So.
And also Miles Killebrew following Danny Smith to Tampa Bay as well.
Yep.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. You beat me to it, Nick. Well done.
Every now and then I get the slight edge.
So interesting. Tons of movement in Pittsburgh this year. But if you're in the Edinburgh area, where you should not move from is your bar seat at the Edinburgh Hotel Bar, because it is the place to be when you're looking for food or beverages. Supporters of Steelers by the Lake podcast include the Edinburgh Hotel Bar, serving a variety of lunch and dinner items every day from their location at 100 Meadville Street in downtown Edinburgh. Information is available at 734-5103 or online at edinburghhotelbar.com. The Edinburgh Hotel Bar, where you had me at hotel.
Sarah and I were just there the other day. I had the crispy chicken sandwich and the onion rings. It was a delight. And I am also delighted to hear what Jill has to say about what she thinks the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to do with their James #1 draft pick.
It's time, Jill. You are the feature of the show today. You get your first mock draft of the season, and we're excited to hear what you've got to say.
You know, I have to say, I'm so glad I'm not a GM because this is hard.
One of us.
And then another disclaimer, there are a couple. So I tried to create a new pool of names. So there are no repeats. However, I will shout out the repeats that I would have picked instead of the one that I did. So, number 1, I am following suit with one Nick Pretzel, and I am going offensive guard, but it is not Ione. It is Chase Bizantis from Texas A&M. I think that's how you say his name. 6'5", 315 pounds. He's got a 31 1/4 arm length. He bench pressed 225 29 times, so we like seeing that. And he had a 5.2 40-yard dash. He played right tackle in college, and he's a pretty much good size. Dude is freaking intense in the run game. So I feel like this is a great addition to that offensive line. We've seen what it looks like when we actually invest in our line, and especially last year with how we weren't penalized a lot, and they did what they needed to do. And so I feel like this would be a great addition, especially with us losing a guard. We're still not sure about Broderick Jones, hopeful report with him, but it's still up in the air. And so I think investing in our O-line early is the way to go, especially because guards are hard to come by. They're not always the best. Same with tackles. It's just, you got to get them when they're in the early picks. And so, but he started all 3 years when he was at Texas A&M. He keeps his feet moving. He gets underneath linemen. He does great job in pass protection. He's strong. I think there's a lot of room for him to grow because he's not exactly the most technical, but when you look at the draft, that's what coaching is for. So you take the raw strength, the wrong talent, and then you coach him up to be what you want him to be. That is my first round pick.
Absolutely. You want to go for the guys, like you said, Jill, that have the measurables and that can be coached up. And we've talked about it before in our mock draft episodes that we've done thus far. This new Steelers staff is comprised of a lot of offensive line coaches. So you got to figure if you get a guy who's got the measurables to be able to do what you need to do, and this guy does seem to be the somewhat prototypical guard shape. I think a little shorter in the arms, if I'm not mistaken there, James, but you love to see 29 reps on the bench. Yeah, you love to see 29 reps on the bench, though. That's a guy who's going to be moving guys around. So love the pick and excited that he has some potential versatility on the line as well.
Well, and he was predicted to go early too, and early on day 2, but every mock I did, he was gone by the time the Steelers picked. So because and even in a couple of the mocks, he was at the end of day 1. So with what I feel like we can address later in the draft for our needs, and I just feel like we should go our offensive line early.
Yeah, he has the strength and agility. The downfall, and the one thing that James will say is the short arms. The length is going to be the thing that beats him. But again, I mean, that's not that doesn't make it impossible to be a successful guard in the NFL. It just makes it a matter of fact that the team has to focus on, making sure his agility is there, that he can move and stay in front of somebody, and then just get his technique down. Once he gets his technique down, a guy with short arms can handle well, but especially with his strength. I mean, yes, short arms, but 29 reps on the bench is still very, very good. It's something that is just going to be a hurdle for him to have a successful career, not a complete roadblock. So,
right.
Yeah, the key to me is what's the guy doing in his college resume? Is it something that shows up on tape that he struggles with? 31 and 3/4 is as close to the measurement of what you're looking for on the bare minimum side as it gets, right? You're hoping for 32 plus, 31 and 3/4. Okay. Like we'll basically count it as a check mark of hitting adequate length. 29 reps is awesome. Like that shows this man has been putting the work in the weight room. But I'm almost more impressed by that 5:03 40-yard dash. Because for a 315-pound man, that is moving. That is a really quick defensive or offensive lineman. So you have to think that a guy with that kind of athleticism, that kind of strength, and very good size, 315s are great size. He didn't look like he had a sloppy build to him. Imagine that dude pulling. He's going to get up to speed pretty quick if he's pulling from the left to the right and he's coming behind the power side of our formation. And here comes Chase Basantis at a full head of steam. I like the sound of that. So I'm in. I think this is a good pick. I think Pittsburgh should strongly consider guard in the first round. And this seems like a guy who'd be a great fit for our system.
Yeah. All right. Round 2 was arguably my hardest round. Round 2's like, that's just the one I was really struggling with. Because my first pick would have been Nick's cornerback in Julian Neal. And I think this is going to spark a lot of discussion because I even hesitated. But with the round 2, number 53, I've got Keith Abney II. He is a cornerback, Arizona State. He is small. He's 5'10", 187 pounds, 30 for his arm, 9 3/4 for his hand. But just some of his stats from 2025. He had 44 tackles, 1 for a loss, 1 for a sack, 2 forced fumbles, 12 pass breakups. An interesting thing about him is he actually played wide receiver in high school. So I thought that was unique coming from a corner because now that I feel like that might add to his football IQ and his playability. If he knows what the receiver is doing, then as a corner, he can almost like come against that. Again, he is small. So going up against your bigger receivers, he's going to struggle with that. And there was no 40-yard because he was not at the combine, I believe. Or he didn't participate in the 40-yard. So, but he is speedy, which shows up on tape, and he has very great awareness of the ball and the play that's happening on the field. He also is really good at reading a quarterback's eyes. So he can almost in advance tell where the play is going. He stays in control. He also knocks the ball out. I mean, with that forced fumbles, pass breakups, I feel like that fits in with our turnover culture, and he could be a great piece added to that. Like that's something we coach up a lot. And so if he's already doing that at the collegiate level, that's an easy add to our secondary there. But again, he is small. That was my biggest hang up with him is that he's a tiny corner. But I think with his ball awareness and his football IQ, like he's going to have to lean on that to be successful in the NFL. But that could sure up with Asante only being a 1-year deal. I figured draft a corner, coach him up with all these awesome vets in the room, and then see what could transpire.
Keith, if you're listening, Jill clearly realizes you're small.
I know. He's so athletic. He is so athletic, and he's so speedy.
The only concern I have here with this pick, I do like the pick. I think that he's your typical short guy. He's feisty. He's a little crazy. He plays the ball. I've seen some tape on him. He plays the ball like it's thrown to him. The big concerns here are apparently he was flagged 13 times in the past 2 seasons. But outside of that, I mean, the guy's going to fight for the ball, right? And contest it no matter how high it's thrown, no matter anything. He's one of those feisty guys that's going to get in there, punch the ball out. He's just going to be doing this. He reminds me of he's a defensive Cam Scatterbo. Like that's what it reminds me of. But outside of that, the biggest concern there is going to be the size. Right. And making sure that he can keep up with guys that are going to run faster than him. The fact that he didn't run a 40 at the combine is concerning to me.
Yeah, I didn't love that, but his tape shows fast.
I don't think he's quite as small as what we're talking about here. 5'10", 187 is not a big corner by any means, but it's not like this is a 5'8" dude trying to play corner. That's true. It's not a 175-pound cat out there either. I love the fact that he at least competed in the bench press and got 15 reps. That shows above average strength for a corner, especially a guy that's under 190 pounds. So that does make me wonder, does this guy have any experience in the slot? He might be somebody with that kind of strength that could really excel as a slot or nickel defender, which is something we're still trying to figure out in Pittsburgh. That's not Jamel Dean. That's not Joey Porter Jr. Dante Samuel Jr., not the greatest tackler in the world, so it's not a great home for him. Brandon Eccles had some great moments at that, but also had some bad moments. Jalen Ramsey had some great moments as a nickel corner, but also some bad moments, and we kind of would rather see him play safety.
Yeah, we don't want him there.
So maybe this is the solution at nickel corner for the immediate future in post. And you don't need that guy to be huge. You need him to be tough. I mean, the best nickel corner we've had in a long time was Mike Hilton. He wasn't that big, but he played like a linebacker. So if you give me a guy with tenacity and plays hard, and as long as you got that good short area quickness and you can handle guys within the first 10 yards of the line of scrimmage, safeties should have your back beyond that. So I think as this guy can fit the mold and be that physical nickel defender, maybe you found a starting nickel defender in round 2. And if that's the case, it's a home run pick.
Yeah.
If you're an audio-only listener, you did not see me crack a giant smile when James started talking, because we have been thinking very much alike in terms of this draft class and in terms of some of these prospects. And that's exactly what I was thinking. This is your nickel corner, your slot corner kind of guy. I like what Cody said about him being the Cam Scatabo of the defensive side of the ball. I like to call it small dog syndrome, and this guy is a dog. He plays bigger than he is, and like James said, he's not a small dude. He's just smaller for a corner. And a lot of the analysts' breakdown of him is that's the main knock on his game. Cody did mention the penalties as well. But other than that, you can't really find a whole lot of a knock on his game. As Jill said, he's tenacious. You got to figure that the reps on the bench were probably part of the reason he didn't run the 40. You bulk up a little bit for the combine, you participate in the bench there, and then you run your 40 at your pro day when you slim down a little bit and get a faster time. So hopefully we see that happen from him, and we can see just how quick he can be as well. But he is, as Jill said, it's not uncommon for wide receivers to convert to corner when they get to college, but it gives them that added level of play IQ to say, okay, when I was a receiver, if I'm running this route and the quarterback, he's got his eyes on the quarterback. I know where the ball is coming. I know when it's coming. I can time it so that I can hit, so I can get that forced fumble. So he might not be going up and playing the jump ball, but he's going to lay you out and he's going to knock that ball out. So really excited if we do pick him at this number 2 overall pick to see if he does slide right into that starting nickel role, because I think in a room with Jalen Ramsey, who can really coach up how to hit even better, and who's succeeded doing so at the NFL level for years, you got to figure some of these young guys can pull some experience from him and have him help coach out, because we heard last year about how much of a team player he was and how much of a locker room guy Ramsey really was, and hopefully that translates to some of these young prospects if we do end up going corner early.
Yeah. And the flag that even with penalties, like we talk about JPJ and how many penalties he drew. So I feel like that would be that'd be a great opportunity for JPJ. Like if this is the draft pick we go with, like, well, no, I actually get it. This is what I do instead. So
yeah, it just means he plays really close to the receiver.
That is true.
We've seen the improvement now from Joey Porter Jr. So he might be at that stage in his career where he could be a mentor to a guy like this.
Right.
So yeah, that would be a tremendous thing to see that happening already inside that room.
Yeah. So, all right. With my third pick, we're at 76 overall. I again am going for the offensive line, offensive tackle, Caleb Tiernan out of Northwestern. So he is 6'8", 323 pounds, 32 and a quarter length with his arms. He's got a 9-inch hand, no injury history.
Nice.
Chef's kiss. I was like, bet. I love that. That is fantastic. Some things that were talked about him is he is like the team standard for work ethic. And for somebody that's in the trenches to have that said about you is just glowing. He wins pass protection. He played left tackle. So I really did go into this one with the question marks around Broderick Jones. So, and especially because we are lacking depth there. And I mean, even if Dylan Cook was the guy, like we got to have a battle of some sort there. And then in 25, he had 2 sacks allowed, 7 hurries, 1 hit, 3 penalties per PFF. He also has a basketball background, which helps him with his quick movements. So finishes blocks well. He has great technique, and he is a solid dude, which is what we need in the trenches, which is what we need when we're still question marks at quarterback. Somebody who's going to hold his ground, finish his blocks, not let the guy get to the quarterback. So that I just think if we invest in this line early, it doesn't matter who we place behind the line, they're safe.
Yeah, that's a guy that has experience playing both tackle positions, which is good. But obviously, playing majority at the left side does help with the Broderick Jones potential of not coming back.
Right.
The big thing that I see from that is especially with the basketball background, man, this is a guy you can bring in just like we were doing with Spencer and allow him to be that sixth offensive lineman. Flex him out, throw an alley-oop to the end zone at 6'8". He's just as big as Darnell, and if his hands are any good, he'll come down with a catch if you want to be trickery.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, the biggest concern here that I have, and it's not a concern really, but why didn't he bench? Normally somebody benches or does a 40. He didn't bench at the combine. I'm not sure what was going on there. But still a great pick at that position and ensures up an offensive line that has some question marks.
Right.
Not
A bit
many
of a-
guys benched this year. It's a real small number. It feels to me like a lot of guys either went to the combine focusing on their speed and their jumps, and they figure they'll just bench at the pro day, or they're doing it vice versa. Like Abney, I feel like he was probably worried about having a good enough body weight.
Yeah.
He didn't want to come in and have a low body weight, so you might as well focus on having a good body weight and getting your bench, and then you can drop a couple of pounds and run good at your 40 on your pro day.
Yeah.
So we're probably in reverse here with Caleb Tiernan. He was probably more worried about looking good in the drills. At 323 pounds, he jumped a 35.5-inch vertical. That is insane for an offensive lineman that's almost 325 pounds. So I'm going to say he was really worried about his athleticism, and he might bench it his pro day. If he doesn't, okay, then he's just not that strong, and that's fine. He can do that while he's in the NFL. You got plenty of steak available, and we'll get you in the weight room. I promise. So I love the size on the guy. That kind of athleticism is really important for your ability to kick, slide, and get out as an offensive tackle. So the length isn't incredible, but the length is adequate. You can make up for that by having good athletic traits of being able to move vertically and horizontally around the line to make sure guys don't beat you up the arc. So I like the fact that there's a baseline of really good athleticism with the basketball background, with the really good jumping ability that shows short area explosiveness. To me, that helps a ton in pass protection. So I think that's an awesome addition to the room to try to maybe take over as the starting tackle. Worst case scenario, you have a really high-end backup.
Yep.
A recent riser who, as we've mentioned, would be fun to see in trickery with that basketball background. I do believe in some of my research of prospects as I've been going along that they mentioned that with the combine this year, not every prospect was invited to participate in every drill. So I don't know if that plays a factor in some of this here. I don't remember what the source was on that or how accurate that was. But you may have some of these guys not participating in drills because they just simply weren't invited to participate in those drills. So I don't know if that's the case or not, but just something to consider on some of those as well.
Awesome. All right. Third round, but my 4th overall pick at number 85. I'm actually really excited about this guy. I am going wide receiver from Georgia in Zachariah Branch. So he is 5'10", 177 pounds, 29 3/8 arm, 9-inch hands. He had a 38 vertical. He ran a 4.35 40 and had a 152 10-yard split. And then he benched 20 reps I know. So he did it all at the combine. So this man was out here showing up and showing out. He is fast. So we have been talking about needing a guy at wide receiver that is able to cause separation. This is the guy. This is him. He is. I'm just so excited about this. He's strong for his size, and he can create, like I said, he can create that separation we need. He has great body control with not only like ball control, but motion. Like we just saw, like the stop motion and then go again. He's not afraid to like tackle a guy to get more yards and fight for the yards after his reception. And he's young. He is only 21. So long-term, great age. He is also the nephew of a Hall of Famer, Cliff Branch. He's the great nephew of Cliff Branch. And we know the Steelers love a bloodline. So this just feels like this could be a great wide receiver 3 with even more potential to become that guy, especially because he's both fast and he's strong. So.
Yeah, no, go ahead, James.
Did we see anything on kick return experience with him by chance?
No, I have a couple other people for kick return. So
yeah, that's explosive.
Yeah.
Dude's like a freaking beast. I was like, so that's why I'm not going first round, second round. Like this guy, but the thing is, I think if he can get enough attention, he might go earlier. He's projected now to be, I think, like 99th overall pick is the projection, but he might go early. He just looks like a freaking weapon.
Branch is one of those third-round receivers that you get really excited about. This is a deeper receiver class, and it shows because you're in the third round, and you're looking at this guy, and you're like, how does he in the third round? But you've just got so much high-end talent in this draft that you feel comfortable waiting until round 3, especially now that we have Pittman in the room, to grab a guy who can contribute and still be potentially a day one starter, especially with the guys we've currently got remaining on the roster. So Branch is one of those guys you figure can be that separator, can run the route, can scheme himself open instead of just being a contested catch guy, which is what we've kind of been a little bit one-dimensional with for a little while. I mean, Calvin Austin was supposed to be that, and he had flashes, but he never really developed into that full-time, I can be that kind of guy, and Branch is somebody you hope would be able to fill that role and be the heir apparent to Calvin Austin. Haven't seen much on kick return duty, as James was asking about, for him. Potentially could be that kind of guy, but you're not really as worried about that when you're getting him, because he's that third option that you've really wanted and can really be a part of that Mike McCarthy style offense and be one of the guys on those 3 receiver sets that he likes to run so often.
Iron sharpens iron, right? So you bring a guy in like this, and you're going to have a real serious competition between him and Roman Wilson of smaller, speedy dudes. But I like the build on this from what we were watching on that quick breakdown of his tape. Clearly a guy who does not go down easily at first contact. He breaks some tackles. 20 reps on a bench is incredible for a small wide receiver like that. So that's tons of strength, tons of speed in a little package. And that's okay if you can play bigger than your size. He appears to be a guy that does that. I'd love to see him on some punt returns. I feel like he would just be just explosive as anything on punt returns.
Yeah.
An absolute monster.
The only thing that I could see from tape is it looks like he's more concerned about running his route quickly rather than correctly. His turns were a little rounded, not sharp. His cuts, but when you have that much raw talent, it doesn't matter. I mean, he still created separation. I can only imagine how much he would improve in that area if he learned to kind of make better cuts and make better moves. But that's a guy that's just a freak of nature that can come in and change the game immediately. I mean, if he's your guy coming in as the third wide receiver, you got all the speed and the height you could desire out of that team. And that's a guy that, again, we talk about. He remind me a little bit of Antonio Brown with the speediness and things. But with that being said, that's a guy that's not afraid of the contact. That's a guy that's going to take those hits that we were worried about Calvin Austin taking. And so that's a guy that can come in and do the things that Calvin Austin, we wanted him to do, but maybe he exactly wasn't able to because of the size and the strength difference.
Yeah, Calvin was tough. It wasn't a lack of toughness. It's just there's only so much you could take, so it looks like, unfortunately, we lost Nick. Not sure if that'll be temporarily or permanently. He's back. He's back.
Welcome back.
So we're fighting through it.
We're good again. But yeah, I love the physicality of a guy like that. It's like they say, it's not always the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog. This dude looks like he's got a ton of fight in him. And again, short, but very strong for his size. Seems like great contact balance. I think it's a great selection.
Okay.
Georgia Bulldog too.
Right, so it's got to work out for this guy.
All right. Pick 99. I went with a safety from Penn State in Wheatley.
All right.
He is 6'2", 203 pounds, 9.5 inch hands, 31 arm. He jumped a 32.5 vertical, 0 penalties in his career. Which is funny. That's the complete opposite of some of the other guys, but I thought that was just astounding. No penalties at all. So that's a pretty great stat. He's a good size for his position. He is athletic and could be used as that nickel corner piece if they did not get Abney. He's got great gap awareness. He is a downhill gunner. He goes downhill and he goes downhill quick. He could have value on special teams as well. I think we put him in as a depth piece to coach him up, and we've got a solid guy. Again, with some of these just 1-year deals, I feel like getting a safety would be a smart decision, especially when we've got the safety room that we have now for him to be trained up. We've talked about it before, you draft before you absolutely need. And so I think Wheatley's got so much potential.
Yeah, I mean, that's a game changer in the run game. Safety that can come up and play the run and keep up with the horizontal running or the vertical running of receivers even. But that's a guy that's a thumper. He's not going to be afraid of coming down, making some hits, making some plays, maybe forcing some fumbles. The 0 penalties from a safety position is astonishing. You got to think the number of times you could get called for a face mask or any kind of unnecessary roughness or pass interference or whatever. Very, very good play. Smart IQ player. This is the guy that's going to come in and probably, has the chance to be year 2 starter. And especially in the safety room with so many questions, let the Jaquan Brisker and some of those vets come in there and show him how it's done in the NFL. That's a guy that year 2, we don't got to worry about that safety room right now. At least one of the safeties.
Right.
You got to
go ahead, Nick.
No, I was just going to say, you got to really wonder who's going to be the odd man out, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, Sebastian Castro is still on the team. He's a safety. We have Darnell Savage as well. So you got to wonder who's going to be the guy to be dropped if we do take Wheatley here, because we now have Brisker, Elliott, Ramsey technically. With all these guys in the room, you got a lot of high caliber level play guys. Now, granted, there is injury concern with both Elliott and Brisker and honestly Ramsey. So it's just one of those things where you're like, who's going to be the odd man out? So it's going to be a fun battle to watch in camp for sure if we end up taking Wheatley.
Yeah, this is a really nice safety prospect. This is a class to me that if you can get a safety in the first 3 rounds, you probably have a future starting safety. And that's not always the case in safety classes. This is a more athletic class than normal. This is a class that has some good height to it. Not a lot of real heavy safeties, but they don't have to be real heavy safeties to be effective in the NFL. So I'm totally cool with that. I'll take the size and athleticism. But how cool would that be if things work out with Brisker? You draft Wheatley, you got Joey Porter Jr., 3 or 4 starting DBs, Penn State University. That would make some of us on the show, I won't say who, would make some of us very, very proud to see me definitely being one of them. So, yeah, I like Zakee Wheatley. I think he's a really, really nice prospect. I love that 6'2" size. I love the tape. He seems like a very reliable tackler, which you've got to have at safety. And, worst case scenario, he doesn't start year 1. He's real active on special teams. And then year 2, you're looking at a drastically younger starting safety room, whether it be Brisker, whether it be Wheatley, whoever. One of these guys is going to take over year 2.
Yeah. All right. We are now in the 4th round. This is where I'm going defensive tackle with pick 121. I would have done Cody's pick of Washington Jr. I actually really liked him, but again, for some just difference, I went with Landon Robinson from the Navy. He is a smaller guy. He's 5'11" and some change. So there's a couple mixed readings. Like some have him at 6 foot, some of them at 5'11". Different, like ESPN, I think, had him at 6 foot, but like Steelers Depot had him at 5'11". So an inch, I don't know. 293 pounds. He ran a 4.65 40, 33 vertical jump. No, sorry. That was wrong. Hold on. 487 40 dash. There we go. There's no bench press or the bench, but he can squat 665 pounds per the Navy, and he can also bench 465. I don't know what the reps of that are, but the max of that is he is a strong dude. He has work ethic like no other, and he is quite the anchor. He is an animal. He is highly conditioned. He played multiple positions on the D-line. He does have shorter arms that show up on tape, but he is quick and can move laterally very quick. In 2025, he had 64 tackles, 8.5 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks, 34 pressures. What's really killer about him is his first step is quick, and it throws offensive linemen off. But like I said, he's small. I do wonder how that would look in the 3-4. He almost kind of also has a build of linebacker. So I feel like if we brought him in, there could be some interesting usage that we would have with him. So I just really like work ethic, man. He's just a good, he just seems like an all around good dude, and so character can win. So
the Sebastian Joseph Day replacement here, definitely a nose tackle type build. If you asked me, the first step is critical. The speed and everything. If you can win early, then you don't have to necessarily win. The being able to get the first step on a guy gives you a huge advantage. You don't then have to win with the power, but he still has some of that power with that squat, with the ability to lift some of those weights. The not benching is strange, but he does have enough strength to him that with the quick step, he can win with a quick burst and get still enough power in there to throw the offensive lineman off their game. So that sounds fantastic to me in a 4th round pick.
Yeah, this guy wasn't on my radar before this mock draft, and after seeing some of the tape and seeing how fast that first step really is, and his ability to stack and shed and get off a block, really impressed by what I saw. And this is a guy coming from Navy. He has the work ethic and the mentality to come in and grind and really make his presence known. Potential new team captain when Cam leaves, I don't know. But really exciting pick here, and the 6.5 sacks just in this past year is impressive from that position. And even the one highlight we just saw, if you're watching on YouTube, even showed his ability. He hit the quarterback after the pass was thrown, but still the IQ was there to not let his body fall on the quarterback and get a penalty. Actually, real excited about this pick.
Yeah, this is a guy who's probably best fit as a 4-3 defensive tackle. But you run so much nickel in the NFL now that's kind of what the role is anyway in a nickel defense. So I think he would struggle finding a home and base defense.
Yeah.
But what I've seen from just doing a little research while we're talking about him, when he came to the Navy, he was only 160 pounds.
Yeah.
Got himself all the way up to 290, and it looks like 100% through the weight room. So I would not be concerned about this man being able to add more weight. I think possible, like your only home really for him on the defense is at nose tackle. But I think as a pass rusher, he'd add a lot of juice on the inside. We saw that from the tape here. So you'd probably have to stash him for a year because you're not going to be able to play him in base, I don't think, against the bigger people in the NFL. But Casey Hampton came in the league at 298 pounds. He was nowhere near 298 pounds when he left the league, probably closer to 398 pounds. And Casey one time at the Pro Bowl put up 49 reps on the bench press at 225 pounds. So I feel like the path for him, it would be similar to what the Casey Hampton path was, where you come into the NFL, you realize, hey, I'm probably a little bit too light. I'm going to have to gain a little bit of crappy weight. I'm going to have to change my diet to not the greatest diet in the world, to add a little bit of sloppy weight. Get on the dirty bulk, man. Lots of burgers and fries. Heavy days only, no high rep days, and add another 20 pounds. Let me see what he does when he's 315, 320 pounds. You might have a pretty formidable dude. But in the meanwhile, it's somebody that can get you some pass rush juice as a situational, like rotational pass rush interior dude. So there is a path for him to be successful in the league, and he's shown the work ethic to get there. So,
all right. With the 135th overall pick, this was drafted based on the fact that I think Aaron Rodgers is coming back, but I'm going quarterback from Baylor in one Sawyer Robertson. He is 6'36" and some change, 216 pounds, 9 3/8 inch hands, 32 and an eighth arm. My pen started running out of ink at this point, so my note taking got a little sloppy. He ran a 4.64 40. I drafted him here because I feel like he's got a great arm, and this is a great Mike McCarthy project. He's got potential. I feel like he would be a good coach, can turn him into something great. At Baylor, the offense is pretty one-dimensional, and so there was not a lot of creativity or scheming with like to build him up. But he does have a good arm. He was averaging about 12 at Baylor. He was averaging 12.1 yards per completion. He had 31 touchdowns to 12 interceptions in 2025. For his career, it is 61 touchdowns to 25 interceptions. So he's got some pretty good accuracy. He's able to move and scramble. Well, and then again with like McCarthy and Rodgers potentially coming back, for him to be able to be under a veteran quarterback and watch and learn, and then potentially with whatever happens next year, I don't. Quarterback was so hard, but I think he has a lot of potential, and he's one of the better quarterbacks in this class, in my opinion. I would just like to see what he's not the immediate starter, but to sit and watch and learn and be developed into something could be, if like we've got Mike McCarthy, so we might as well, he could be a great development piece here.
Yeah, you got to figure you can only keep so many guys on your roster, and with 12 draft picks, if we take all of them, not everyone's gonna make the team.
Right.
So you figure with Robertson, he's got not necessarily the measurables, but he's got that kind of IQ where he seems to be able to, from some of these highlights, if you're watching on YouTube, to be able to diagnose the defense, to be able to say, okay, this is an instance in which they're playing deep. I'm going to throw underneath and we're going to stretch it a little bit, or to be able to take the top off and diagnose. I believe it was like the first or second highlight they showed there, was able to split the difference between the corner and the safety and put the ball right into the breadbasket of his receiver. So you figure a guy who can make those types of plays in a Mike McCarthy offense who gets to sit potentially behind Aaron Rodgers for a year, that would be the ideal scenario to have a guy that you're taking a mid to late round shot at. He's got some ability to do the things that he needs to do already and could potentially then be coached up to be able to take that to the next level.
Right. And again, like some of the things that are drawbacks, I feel like are coachable. So like he tends to stick with like just the first read and only go with that first read and get locked in there. But I feel like I get like that's something that can get coached. What I like is like the pocket will collapse around him, but he still doesn't like he'll scramble out of it, but it doesn't look like he feels the pressure and just immediately like dumps it when the pocket starts to collapse around him. So I feel like that's a really good trait going into the NFL. But I wonder what like with that first read. So it's just we force it to the first read, but that's something that I feel like with good coaching is a fix.
Yeah. His mechanics seem a little strange, and just from what I'm seeing, his throw pattern is a little wider than I think most. But again, Mike McCarthy, the QB whisperer, maybe there's a chance he develops this guy. And again, I mean, we're not looking for a guy to come in and be the frickin', Tom Brady right now. We obviously already have Will Howard. I think everyone in Pittsburgh, fans, team, and coaches want to see what Will Howard has before we even get to another guy. But on top of that, the question mark with Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback room still needs to be addressed in this draft, and it will be. And I like this pick. It's a guy that I haven't heard a whole lot of, but seeing those passes that he was throwing in the highlights, it looks like his placement is really good, even in high traffic areas. So that was kind of exciting to see that he can kind of place the ball where he wants to put it and kind of throw some guys open, not only throw two open guys. So
yeah, I like it. Great size, almost 6'4", 216 pounds. Fantastic athleticism for a quarterback. I think if you're going to take a shot on a guy to try to develop, this is a fantastic one to take a shot at. So I think that's an excellent identification of potential talent. I don't want to take a guy in the 5th or 6th round that's 6 foot, 200 pounds and say, oh yeah, I'm going to turn. No, you're not going to turn him into anything. He's just, the chances of him being anything are not good at all. A guy like this, there's absolutely a chance of developing. So love the pick.
Thank you. All right. With the 161 pick, I am going linebacker from Buffalo in one Red Murdoch. He is 6'1", 232 pounds, 31-inch arms, 10 3/8 hand, bro. That is a big hand. It's a big hand. He has 364 career tackles, 39.5 for loss in his career, 17 forced fumbles, and 9 sacks. He actually holds the NCAA record for forced fumbles. That screams Steeler defense. Like the turnover culture is just what this guy does. He is physical. He seems to always be around the football, which is what we're looking for in the linebacker. Like he's just always where the play is happening. He has great effort. He finishes each play. He is trained to punch the ball out to try to force that turnover. Again, I kind of already said that, but with our turnover culture, this linebacker, I think he fits the bill quite nicely. Especially with like the question marks with Patrick Queen, with Malik Harrison, even if we let one of those guys go, to have him be there as a rotational piece, I think would just be stellar. I personally think he could be an immediate starter with how physical he is, how he is just, his effort is through the roof. It kind of matches with Peyton Wilson. He doesn't have exactly the same athleticism as Peyton Wilson, but that's why we have Peyton Wilson. I feel like that was something with him and Queen. It's like we're fighting on our athleticism, whereas like he's looking for the play that's happening and going after the play. Yeah, I'm really excited about him. I really hope we get him.
yeah, I don't know if you could tell in that replay on the video, but he just punched the ball out because the ball went flying in the opposite direction. Leading the entire college football in forced fumbles is a very, very, very impressive stat. As I was watching highlights and seeing some things, it felt like he moved slow, But after watching a little bit more, it almost looks like he's just more deliberate about when he uses his speed. He's kind of bulky, kind of little, but man, when he has somewhere to go, he looks like he's kind of moving pretty quick to the ball. Exciting potential. Reminds me, the fear is reminds me a little bit of a Devin Bush type style, and so I'm having PTSD with that. But I love the turnovers. I love the turnovers.
The
what
PTSD.
I like here is that I'm seeing him hit guys on the other side of the line of scrimmage, which is not something we ever saw from Devin Bush. He always waited for the action to come to him. And I like the size. It's 6'2", 232. That's a really nice size for a middle linebacker. You can easily add a little bit of weight to a guy that's already got the good height. His physicality is impressive in this. So I like his click and close. I like how he's diagnosing and seeing and shooting right through a gap to get into the running back. I think you got a lot to work with a guy like this.
Really don't think we need to worry about the Devin Bush comparison because that was a first-round pick as opposed to this is a sixth now. But also the way he gets to the ball, even when he's on the opposite side of the field, shows that he does still have that speed and enough athleticism to, if he's not immediately there to make the play. I saw a couple shoestring tackles where he just laid out and gave his all to make the play. Love to see that. Yeah, love to see that. The Mickey Mouse hands are making him be able to extend a little bit longer. So like what I'm seeing from the tape, haven't seen a whole lot of him before, but this is the bye-bye Malik Harrison, in my opinion.
With pick 216, I am going with a tight end from Syracuse. We have Dan Villari. He is 6'4", 245 pounds. He was a quarterback, a tight end, and a running back. So he's played a couple different positions. I believe he was quarterback before he transferred to Syracuse. When he was at Syracuse is when he made the transition to tight end. I think he was originally with Michigan and didn't play when he first went there, but then played a couple snaps at quarterback. He in 2025 as tight end. Wait, I think I have more of those stats. Let's see. Maybe I don't. Okay, but 2025, he had 39 catches, 412 yards. He also had 17 carries for 55 yards and a touchdown. We've been talking how we need more of a receiving tight end versus what we've got in Darnell and Pat. And I mean, Pat can receive, Darnell can receive, don't get us wrong, but more of that focused receiving tight end. And I think he fits the bill perfectly. He's a good route runner. He does have the separation skills as well. Not as much of that run blocker, which doesn't concern me as much when we have Pat, who's increasingly been great at blocking the run. And then, of course, Mount Washington, who just dominates all the time. And that's also something that can be coached. So even though it's not a skill that he's possessed just yet, that doesn't mean that can't be attainable for him. So I think a great addition in our tight end room.
With Connor Hayward.
A little bit of wiggle here too, right?
What's that?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
He's got a little wiggle to him where he makes people miss in open space and in tight situations. So you got to love that. Little yards after catch is a great thing. And tight end 3 is wide open now.
Yeah.
I think Cody was about to say with Connor Hayward being gone now, with cutting Jonnu Smith, it's wide open. We need a tight end 3. So looks like a nice guy to take a shot at.
Hi, I'm Cody. No, you're good. You're good. But yeah, definitely what I was going to say. Yeah, we need the tight end 3 spot filled now, and you hope this guy could potentially fill a little bit of the fullback role. He might not have the size for it, but like James said, he has that wiggle to be able to make some guys miss. So in short yardage situations, you could still potentially pitch him the ball or get some of the blockers out in front. We have got that young and talented offensive line. So you figure with some of the picks Joe made and with this guy coming in, you might have also a fullback candidate in him to be able to be the Connor Hayward replacement. And maybe we're changing the Spartan to whatever the name of the mascot for the college he went to is. So what is it? The
Orangeman?
Orangeman?
I
So-
mean, on this play you're about to see, if you're watching on YouTube, I mean, he's the quarterback on this play. I mean,
that's what I'm saying, like,
he screams Taysom Hill to me. I mean, this is a Taysom Hill 2.0.
trickery.
This is a Swiss Army knife of a player that you can put it at any offensive position and allow him just to wreak havoc and create mismatches. Again, Jill is coming here and surprising me with all these picks, and this is a guy that I want. I want him as a Steeler. I mean, right there, he's in the Wildcat and rushing, 35, 40 yards for a touchdown. This is just a guy that's going to come in and make plays any single way that we need him. I can only imagine he'd be a stellar blocker on kickoff and kick coverage and stuff like that. So I'm game. Put this guy in the black and yellow and let's go to work.
Absolutely. What else you got for us, Joe?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know we're made it a long show today. All right, pick 224. I am going a running back from Oregon in one, Noah Whittingham, 5'8", 205 pounds, 29 and an eighth arm, 8 1/4 hand. He benched 24 reps at the combine. This is my question mark with Caleb Johnson. How can we battle it out with Caleb Johnson? He could be fun with the training camp matchup. He has some kick return experience, which is what piqued my interest initially. He commits to fighting for yards. He runs with good leverage. Downfall is he will be 25 before training camp. So he is a little bit on the older side, but again, with us getting Dawdle, I feel like this was just, it's kind of that kick return aspect, but I have somebody else that I also am eyeing up for the kick return, which we'll talk about draft picks. So
I know James might have missed this first highlight, so I want him to see it to kind of get an idea of the fighting for extra yards mentality that we just talked about.
Fighting. Look at that. Woo! The commitment is crazy.
Yeah, just refusing to go down.
Yeah, that's great. 24 reps on a bench on a 5'8", 205 kid. I love it. Looks like he fights for every yard. Looks like he's got at least adequate speed, maybe plus speed. So, yeah, I think that's a great thing. You want to get the best out of Caleb Johnson? Bring in somebody that can take his job. You'll get the best out of Caleb Johnson.
That's what I'm saying. It couldn't hurt.
Yeah, I'm on board with him. Exciting pick, especially with the potential to get Jalen Warren off a kick return.
Yeah. All right, my next pick I don't necessarily love, but this was when I was tiring out, and I was like, all right, I love the player. I just don't know exactly where he would fit with us, but I went with a safety from Ohio State with one, Lorenzo Styles Jr., 6 foot, 194 pounds, 31 and 5/8 arm, 9 1/2 hand, 4.27 40 and a 39 vertical jump. What piqued my interest with him is his ability to be on special teams. So not necessarily the positional piece, but with my thought was like, well, if Killebreau's leaving, and he was technically safety, like what could that mean for Lorenzo Styles? And so he is great for kick and punt coverage, good tackler, great downhill speed. He wins when he disrupts the route, which could be useful. Like I think about with safeties, like if we're looking at that positional piece, he will disrupt the route, which is something we've talked about before, where we've had safeties and corners that just let them run their routes. And when he actually disrupts it, he's more productive, which makes sense. You disrupt the route, then you're going to win. But he's able to disrupt that route. He also had 12 games at nickel corner. And then he was actually a receiver at Notre Dame. So he had 54 receptions, 684 yards, and 2 touchdowns as a receiver. And then at Ohio State, he had 46 tackles, 6 pass breakups.
This is a guy that is quickly jumping onto my radar. He's the older brother of first-round talent and also Ohio State player Sonny Styles, which is where that name might sound familiar to you. You know how the Pittsburgh Steelers have loved brothers and bloodlines, and so while they may not be able to get linebacker Sonny Styles, Lorenzo's here in the late rounds, and you got to love the versatility in a late-round pick. This is when you start taking some flyers and trying to find, as we've often talked about, lumps of clay that can be molded into something better. And this is a guy who gives you the opportunity to say, hey, I might be a stash like we mentioned before with some of the other guys. You might have him on the practice squad and just hope and pray that he doesn't get poached or that you can try to get him back like we did with Sebastian Castro this past year. But he can contribute potentially on the defense, definitely on special teams. So he's got the ability to play multiple positions on the defense, got the ability to be a special teams guru like we had in Miles Killebrew. And we kept Miles Killebrew around as a special teams captain for years when he really wasn't that serviceable on defense. So, I mean, this is a guy that could potentially be a long-term special teams guy for Pittsburgh, and you get him with a late-round pick, and if he doesn't work out, you don't feel too bad about it.
Right.
Yep, I like the pick. That first kickoff return was impressive. The speed's there. The downhill ability to run downhill and get to the ball carrier and not miss on those open field tackles is huge.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, maybe the fastest guy in this year's NFL Combine. He was incredible. That 4.27 40 was just, I think they had to use a fire extinguisher on the track after he ran. It was pretty impressive. So you got to take shots at guys like that. If there's somebody like that available this late in the draft, don't let him go undrafted. Get him on your roster and just figure out a spot for him. I mean, worst case scenario, he'd probably be the best gunner on punt coverage in the entire NFL. You're going to be able to find a way to get a guy like this on the field. You might be able to use him as a corner with that kind of incredible speed. So I don't know. I love the opportunity to add that kind of extreme athleticism with still good size. It's not like he's a tiny dude who just runs fast. You know, he's almost 6'2", 194 pounds, and the fastest dude in the NFL Combine this year. Yeah, bring him on the team.
All right, my last pick. Shout out to Alex Kozora for this one because I would have not known about this guy had I not read his little write-up about him. Is a wide receiver from Iowa in Caden Wetjen. 5'7", 193, 29, 5'8", arm, 8.5 hand, 440, 840, and a 35.5 vertical. In all caps, return game unlocked. This dude is a freaking return animal. My gosh. He set a school record for kicks and punts returns for touchdowns. So I believe it was 4 kick returns for a touchdown and 2 punt returns for a touchdown, total of 6, I believe. His average yards for returning is 26.8. He often eludes that first tackle attempt, which is huge in our return game. We've been talking, I mean, all last season, we talked about how our return game is like mid. It just, it wasn't bad, but it was not, we weren't getting those touchdowns. I think this dude's the answer. He's an animal.
We know he already looks good in black and yellow, so.
Right. So not only he is smaller, so like as a wide receiver, you need a quarterback that's accurate because he is on the shorter side, but he's more of like the quick pitch, like to get for like wide receiver. His beauty is the special teams kick return. He actually won the Jet Award twice for return, and then the Rogers Dwight return specialist twice. Both back-to-back years. So, dude's a beast.
Love the shiftiness, and you got to figure with Y.A. Black and Caleb Johnson on the roster, they might be trying to get in Omar Khan's ear and saying, hey, we want to improve our return game. You got our guy.
Yeah, if you were watching our show last year during the regular season, this is a name I brought up during the season because of him sticking out so much during college football last year.
Yep.
So I love seeing him get a little bit of shine during the pre-draft process. Man, there's a real chance you're going to see him on my mock draft too. I'm not going to lie to you because I love this kid. As explosive as it gets, and you really can't do much better on the return game. It's been a real problem for Pittsburgh and the return game, both kick and punt, just not getting it done. The last kick return for a touchdown Pittsburgh had was Juju Smith-Schuster, his rookie season. That's going back a long time ago now. So, yeah, we need that in this room again in the worst way, and I love this kid as a prospect.
All right.
Yeah, that wraps up the draft, does it not?
It does.
That wraps up my draft.
Well, Jill, we love what you did with your first mock draft. And to all those listening, we cannot thank you enough for listening to us here at 2 Hours by the Lake. If you could, please give us a follow on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and Spotify. Subscribe, ring the bell. It does not cost you a thing. Do not forget those 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. Make James and the rest of us very happy. And until next time, these are your hosts, Nick, Cody, James, and Jill, signing off.
Peace.